Hey everybody, welcome back. This is going to be a project video, and in this video we're going to build what we're calling our lanyard phone wallet. This is just kind of an idea Claudia had, that she had seen somebody carrying something very similar like this. It's just basically a clutch wallet. I'll show you the inside, but on the outside it's got a pocket here for her cell phone, and then it's got a simple lanyard there where she can wear it crossbody or just around her neck. Backside, I went ahead and added another little outside pocket there, as well as on the inside there's a lot of storage in there for cash or credit cards, coins, receipts, whatever you need. And it's just kind of simple, easy carry, minimalistic. You know, she can just kind of grab it and go. She's shopping with the kids or doing something. She doesn't have to carry a whole bunch of stuff. Everything she needs is right there, and she's kind of grab it. This was a fun project for me because we get to touch on a couple aspects that I haven't really covered a whole lot on this channel. And one is making a block for a certain item and then forming that leather around that. We touch on that in the video, as well as putting in a zipper in this manner. I've never done this before as far as putting one in this way. You'll see in the video how we did it. And it was actually a lot easier than I thought it would be, and it went together really well. So I was really happy with that. Honestly, we made 3 or 4 of these trying to get the pattern just right, but I think now the pattern is just about right. This is the second tooled one that I made using the patterns that we developed, and it worked out really well, went together really well. So I think you're gonna like it. So let's hop right into the video right now and build a lanyard phone wallet. All right, so here I've just got a piece of 5/6 ounce Herman Oak veg skirting leather, and I'm cutting out the outside pieces of the lanyard wallet. Now you could cut this up to about a 7 ounce, I would think. But I think the 5/6 is just about right, because you're going to have there's going to be a lot of layers to this, so you don't need it very, very heavy. But we need something, if you're going to tool it, we do that. If you're going to make it out of, say, an exotic or something, just try to stick around that 5 ounce or so. It's going to give that thing really good body. Now I opted to go to a 3/4 ounce for this little outside pocket on the back, just so that it's not too bulky. You probably could get by with 5, but I felt better using about a 3/4 ounce for this one pocket. All the rest of it's 5/6. Now I've got a piece of goat skin here, and this is black cherry is the color that I used on this. And so we're going to cut out all the pieces for the interior now. And those are all labeled on the pattern pack. And you're going to want to make sure that this is about a 2 to 3 ounce leather. You don't want anything real heavy for all these pieces. Now the pin that I'm using to trace off these patterns onto this dark finished leather is called a silver pin, and you can buy those at Maker's Leather Supply or any boot and shoe supply. They're used a lot in boot making, but they make it really easy to see the lines that you need to cut on any type of finished leather like this. It's a darker color. And so here's all of our interior pieces here. You can see all the T-pocket pieces and then our outside pieces. Now what I'm going to do first is we're going to come here to the bell skiver, and I'm setting the gauge on the bell skiver to our fold over marks on our pattern. And so this, you don't have to do this step, but I think it makes it look really nice. But we're just going to simply skive the top edge of all the pockets and around all the pieces where they need to be skived, so that it makes a nice transition. In these top parts, we can just fold that over and glue it down, and that'll make a nice rolled edge on the top of all the pockets. Now if you don't have a bell skiver, you can definitely do this by hand. It's just a little more tedious, but as you can see there, that makes it really easy. And that's why the bell skiver is really handy if you have one. But if you don't have one and you decide not to roll the top edges, that's absolutely fine. And here I like to go ahead and skive on the T-pockets, the down pieces. So you'll see here where I skive those. That just keeps any kind of lumps and bumps out of your pocket set once everything's built. Again, not necessary, but it makes it a little bit more professional. And now here I'm skiving the top edge of the long pockets for this, and that again is just going to make that edge just a little nicer, so we can glue that and fold that over. Now I'm also going to go ahead and skive all the way around the long pockets as well as the interior main pieces. That's just going to ensure that that edge around where we sew in the zipper in and all that stuff, it doesn't make a big bump. It's going to keep everything laying nice and neat. And we'll do the same to the top edge of that 1 3/4 ounce back pocket as well. And here I'm just going to get some contact cement, and we're going to put glue on all of our top edges that we need to roll. We'll go ahead and glue all of those up in one setting and then let those dry, and then we'll roll those. Now that our glue is set up, we can come in and just roll that edge over and glue it down. There's really no reason to sew this, but if you wanted to sew it, you certainly could. But I find the glue is more than enough to hold it and keep that edge nice and rolled like that. That contact cement's pretty good. So now I'm going to get everything prepped and ready for tooling, and we're just going to use blue painter's tape on this. It's going to be the easiest way to keep this leather from stretching. We'll want to try to prevent as much stretch as possible because all these pieces need to fit. There's not a lot of feather in this project that we can trim off. All right, now here on the pattern, I do have a line for that there, and you line up that outside pocket. It hasn't been formed yet, but you want to make a mark there. That's just going to tell us where our tooling needs to roundabout stop. We don't need to tool much past that because that's down inside the pocket. And then we'll lay this back pocket on here and do the same. And that's just going to tell us where our tooling needs to be. All right, and here I'm just going to show some of the tooling. We're not going to get really deep into it. We do have other videos on our channel that show in-depth tooling practices and things like that, but we're going to show some of the tooling of this project. And now I'm going to pull the blue painter's tape only off of the phone pocket here because we need to shape that and form it now that the tooling is done. And so we're going to take the tape only off of that one, and then we're going to go ahead and sand that top edge just a little bit, edge it and slick it and get it ready, and then we'll start doing our forming of that phone pocket. All right, everybody, we came into the cut room real quick because I want to show you how to make this block. You'll see me use this block when we form the front pocket for the cell phone. There's a pattern for this shape inside the pattern pack. It's pretty simple. There's not really anything complicated with making one of these, but I just want to talk about it a little bit. This one was made, the size you'll get in the pattern pack is made for my phone, which was an iPhone Pro Max. So it's a fairly large phone. Claudia has the iPhone Pro, but it's not the Max. And so both of our phones fit on this lanyard wallet pretty well. and even Robin's phone fit in there without her case on, which is like a Samsung of some type. You can make these blocks to fit whatever particular phone you're wanting to make this lanyard wallet for, but I would say that this pattern and this size is a pretty good size. It'll fit a lot of different phones, so you can certainly make one just for that, and I think it'll work on most of them, depending on the case that they have on their phone. But I would caution you, when you make a block like this for a phone or a knife or anything else, you might want to make it just a hair oversized and just a hair thicker, because you would rather it be just a little bit loose where the phone moves in very easily, but not so tight that it pushes all the buttons on the side of the phone and things like that. So that's one thing I would caution you on. And also there's a pattern in there that shows you this line right here. This line is what you'll line up the pocket with when we go to forming that. You'll see me do that in the video here in a little bit. And so that's what that line is there for. So when you make one of these blocks, you can just use this line. It'll be in the pattern. You can use that to kind of figure out, because that's going to really help you get that thing centered so that you can get that pocket formed correctly. Okay, and so how I made this block is, it's just 2 pieces of 15 ounce skirting leather. You can see how thick that is right there. That's what I have a lot of in the shop. So 15 ounce, I took 2 pieces of it, glued it together. It was actually just the right thickness. If you don't have 15 ounce in your shop, you can definitely use like 3 pieces of 910 or whatever. You can just kind of start stacking leather till you get it the thickness that you need. And so what we're going to do is, I'm just going to take, and it doesn't have to be pretty or anything else, but if you're making a lot of these, you're going to want to take the time to make a block like this. But we'll just trace out. I'm going to use the block I've already made, but you could make a pattern, or take the pattern out of the pattern pack and use that. And I'm going to cut out 2 separate pieces here. And we'll just cut those out with a blade. Okay, so I've got my 2 pieces here, and they're almost exactly the same thickness as the one that I have. But like I said, the thickness, if you've got 15, 2 pieces of that that are pretty well consistent, that's going to make a good thickness for making one of these. And then we're simply just going to take some contact cement and put us a little coat on here. We don't have to get real crazy. This thing does nothing more than just forms our pocket. So it's not like it's going to be used, it's just going to be used for that. If you're making a lot of cell phones or knives or anything like that, you can use the same process to make you little blocks for forming, and then put them in a box or something and mark on them, write on them what they're for, you know, what knife they're for, what phone they're for, or whatever you're doing, and that'll help you that way. It's kind of like using a blue gun if you're making holsters, just something easy. Phone cases are fairly easy to make blocks for. Knives are a little trickier because they got a different shape and you're having to whittle on that. But we'll let this set up for just a minute and then we'll glue them together. All right, guys, so our glue is set up a little bit. So all we're going to do is just line these up. Like I said, this is very simple, probably not even worth a video here to show you how to do this. For just the people that maybe haven't ever done one of these, I just want to kind of show you just so you can kind of see how simple it is. And then just kind of get it evened up. I didn't cut this one up just perfectly, but get it all where you need it, and then sand this all so that it's nice and smooth. You can see on this one how even that is. Just kind of sand that, and then I like to take a pretty heavy edger, go around that and round that edge off, because if you look at your phones, they're kind of rounded off. Go ahead and do that, and then you can just use that pattern that's in the pattern pack to trace off this line, however you want to do it, with tracing film, whatever you want to do, and put that line on there. You can even carve it with your swivel knife if you want to, but basically, as you'll see in just a minute in the video, that's where you line that pocket up when you've cased it and you go to form this. And so if you line it up there, it's going to be formed just right to fit the tooling pattern and your phone, and that way you can go ahead and pre-form this pocket before you go ahead and install it onto the face of the lanyard wallet. Okay, so there's our block right there, and you can see that line really well there. That is a line-up line. And so what we'll do now is we'll take our front pocket and we'll case that up. You want it fairly cased because we're doing some forming here. So what you're going to do is just line that up. Try to keep your tooling really centered on the actual block. That block is representing a phone. And so we want the tooling square and straight up and down, and line up that line. And then we'll just begin to, you can use a bone folder or a stick, a rub stick like I've got there. Just kind of start it with your fingers, work it around there, and then start forming and getting a good form and shape around that block. And then we'll let that dry. So there you can see how much form we got out of that, how much shape we got out of that leather. The tooling is nice and centered. The block fits in there very well. There's a lot of different ways to do this forming, but I find this is the way I do it. Works best for me. And now we can just let that dry. Now here I've already done all the finish work. I did that off camera just to keep the video not super long, but I went ahead and did a two-tone brown antique job. And then I let that front pocket for the cell phone, I let it dry really, really well. Then we did all our finish work. And so now we'll just pull the blue painter's tape off. I like to leave it on during finishing just to keep the inside clean. And now we'll take our back pocket here and we'll go ahead and line it up on there, and we make a couple marks. I've already kind of started the gluing process just because I want that glue to stick really well. But you can see there I made a mark where the pocket's going, and then we'll add a second coat here. You can use 1 or 2 coats, whatever you're comfortable with. And we just need enough glue to hold it in place so that we can do all of our work here to build the front of the wallet. And now this one is the front panel, and so it's going to have a little different marks because that's where the front phone pocket will go. And so same thing here, we're just going to put glue where it's going to go, and that way we can glue it in. So now our glue has had a chance to dry and get nice and tacky, so now we'll glue both pockets in place. And this back pocket's fairly simple, just set it down and we'll just glue it in place. And I like to tap it in with a hammer just to make sure that it's stuck nice and well. And take this opportunity to go ahead and trim and make it all true. So if you've got a little overhang or whatever, get that all trimmed up. Now we're going to do the front panel, and so what I like to do is take that block, set it back on there or on your front panel, get it centered up where it needs to be, and then we can come in there and put our pocket right on top so that phone block is exactly where it needs to be. And now we can just set that pocket right on top of it, try not to move the block, and that'll help you to align everything and get everything where it needs to be at, so that it's all centered and you've got plenty of room to sew and everything. And after we've tapped it in, we just want to check and make sure that, you know, the back panel's where it needs to be, the block's where it needs to be, and the block moves in and out fairly easily. And so now we can go ahead and trim all that excess off of the pocket piece. We can trim that all true and get that right. Okay, so now we've got both the front and back panel all assembled, and so now we're just going to sand our edges, edge them, slick them, dye them. We'll do all of that work now because we won't be able to do it later. So we're going to do all of our edge work now on the front and back panel, then we'll move on to the interiors. Okay, so before we move on to the interiors real quick, we're going to take a little 3/4 inch piece of 5-ounce leather, something like that, a little strip, And we're just going to cut us a little hanger for the D, and we're going to go ahead and mount that in the back panel, and this will hold the lanyard. So I'm just going to use my pattern here, and I've got it marked on where that bag slot goes. If you get the pattern pack, all this information is in there. But we'll mark that, and we'll use a 3/4 inch bag slot punch, and we'll punch a hole there, and then we'll mount that D on this back panel. Now when I mount D's like this, I really like to have one side of the tab inside the bag slot and one on the outside. I think it keeps it from shifting around. It makes it lay a little flatter and just looks a little more professional to me. And so that's how I do it. But you could certainly put both ends of the tab through that bag slot. We're just using a number 2 hole here, and we'll use a little double cap speed rivet. All right, so now we'll begin to assemble the interiors. I've just got a little zipper here. You can buy these on Amazon. It's just a real simple, cheap little zipper, and it's just for a little coin slot, or you can put stuff in there, receipts, whatever. And so we're just gonna punch a hole at our marks on the pattern, and then we'll cut in between those holes to make a slot for that zipper to fit in. I'm just going to use some double-sided tape here. This has been my new favorite way of putting in zippers. In old videos I used glue, and glue is kind of hard to deal with on zipper material, and this double-sided tape works really, really well. And you can get this at Maker's Leather Supply and a number of other outlets. So now when we install the zipper, just be real careful. That top portion there is real easy to get too wide, so you want to try to keep that consistent just so you don't change the total width of that main panel of that interior when you put that zipper in. All right, so now we're going to take all of our T-pockets. We're going to start with the very bottom pocket. You'll notice it's a complete square. And we're just going to run double-sided tape on the sides and the bottom, and then we'll set that aside, and then we're going to work with the actual T-pockets first. And on those, I'll show you exactly where I'm going to put the tape on those. So here now we'll just take those and we're going to put a little bit of tape right there on that tab of the T part of the pocket, one on the other side, and then we'll run a little strip across the bottom that's just going to hold that bottom end of that pocket down. All right, so now we'll set those aside and we'll take our money slot pocket there, the longer one. As you can see, it just sits right up underneath that zipper. And then we're going to go ahead and line up. You want to stay to the right of those along that rolled edge. And we're going to start marking where each one of these pockets is going to set. We'll use the bottom one as the first lineup, and then we'll set the next one on top at those the T parts of the pocket. We'll set that on top of those marks, and then we'll make another set of marks, and we'll set the next pocket above that. And we'll do that all the way through all of the T pockets. All right, now that we've got those marked, we're only going to pull the paper off of the bottom edge of the T-pocket. So just that bottom spot, we'll line up the first one, and be sure you're up against that rolled edge there on the right-hand side, and then we'll just tape down the bottom of the pocket. We're not worried about the top edge of the pocket. And we'll do that to each individual pocket all the way down to the bottom, leaving off the final pocket for now. Now we'll go ahead and grab our piece with the zipper in it as well while we're going to the machine. And first I'm going to sew these pockets. Now, the only thing I'm sewing is just the bottom edge of each pocket. And that's going to just ensure that the cards don't go too far down each subsequent pocket there. And so you'll just kind of work your way around, sewing one, then moving on to the next one, lifting that previous pocket up out of the way, and just sew a simple little line right there at the bottom. And that's where we'll stop on this for right now. And while we're at the machine, we've got our piece here, we'll go ahead and sew that zipper in. All right, so all our little T-pockets are sewn in place. Now we can start at the top, remove the paper off the double-sided tape on the top edges, and then we will go ahead and set those. Be sure you get them against your rolled edge on your right-hand side and then aligned on your marks where they need to be. And just work your way down, all the way down to the bottom, and then we'll install the final pocket on top of that. Now on this zipper piece, I like to go ahead and take a pair of shears and just clip the ends of the zipper. If you have any material that's overhanging, just clip that up against your stitches. You can sure burn it down if you want to, but I find just clipping it is plenty just to get that out of your way so it doesn't end up sticking out of your edge later in the project. Now we've brought our pocket system here over to the machine, and we're going to sew 2 lines, one down the side of all the pockets all the way on that rolled edge side on the right side. Just sew a line down there that's going to hold that top edge of the pockets down. Then we'll do the same on the other side of the pockets, as you'll see here in just a second. Okay, so our card pockets are ready to go. So now we can go ahead and install those to the face of the zipper panel. And so I'm just going to line that up. You want to pay attention to your outer edge around there. Just line these pieces up. They fit like they're supposed to, so if you can kind of get those lined up, then we'll take our silver pin and make some marks as to where it's going to go. And then we're going to use glue all around that edge there and glue these 2 pieces together around that left-hand side edge. All right, so now we'll take our second money pocket and we're going to go ahead and glue it to the other side of the interior piece. And so we'll go ahead and mark it the same way we did the card pockets. We'll put that on there, we'll glue it up and mount it to there. All right, our glue has set up, so now we can go ahead and glue all these pieces together. Now you will notice, like, line it up around that edge there, around those corners. Just line that thing up and get it exactly where you want it. And then we'll go ahead and we'll take some scissors and we'll trim any excess overhang or anything like that and get these pieces trued up as well. All right, so now I'm going to measure from the top of the phone pocket. This is a quick way to figure out exactly where your zipper needs to be. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to put a mark there. I think it's like 5.5 inches. It has the marks in the pattern pack, but basically our zipper needs to go past that point. So from the top edge of the phone pocket, and then it needs to come up past that mark I just put on the bottom. And so you need to have a little bit of overhang, I'd say an inch or so of zipper, just so you have plenty of zipper to play with there. And we'll go ahead and cut this zipper to fit that circumference of this front panel. Now here I'm going to transfer those marks from the front and get these two panels lined up just right, and I'm going to transfer those two marks, the top and the bottom one, to the back panel, and that way I know exactly where that's going to come and be important later when we put our little spine in there. That's where that spine's going to go, so we want to make those marks so we can see them. Now when it comes to zippers, you want to be sure that you look at the teeth of your zipper and make sure they're running the direction you want them to run, depending on how you want that zipper slide to go. But I've checked that out, and you can kind of look at zippers. If you mess with zippers, you kind of have seen that, but they have a pattern or direction. And then I'm going to run me some double-sided tape down this zipper, and we'll be ready to install it to the front and back panel. All right, so we'll begin installing this. I want to kind of leave myself a little bit of room. I don't want those teeth right up against that body, and you want a little overhang past your mark, those two marks that we were talking about. You want some deal. But what I found was if you'll let those teeth just sit right on top of the leather, and you'll see I'm coming in perpendicular to the outer edge of the phone body, of that case body, and we're just lining it up and letting those teeth just kind of sit and rest on top of the leather there. And that's going to give you enough distance once we sew it to where it'll bend around, and it'll make a nice little, give you enough gap basically in between the two pieces when it's zipped up. And so we'll just go all the way around. Don't worry about the corners right here. Just leave it perpendicular to the edge and just walk it around there, and it'll kind of stick a little bit on those straightaways, but don't worry about the corners too much. Just go all the way around and line that up. Like I said, letting those teeth rest on top of the face of that phone case front. So as you can see here, it's glued down or taped down along those straightaways, but in the corners I left them kind of not touching. Now you can take a pencil or a stylus and just slowly push pleats in on that corner, and that'll lay that down nice and smooth, as you can see right there. If you try to do it all in one big thumbprint there, it's going to wad up and you're going to get some lumps. So if you'll do it small little pleats just pushing in towards the corner, you can usually get that to just really all bunch up in there and lay down really nice and pretty, and that'll keep it sewing easily on your machine as you sew around this. Now we're going to do the same thing to the back panel, and we're going to make sure that our teeth are running the correct direction and to match the opposite side, so that zipper will track right. If you have one going one way and one going the other, your zipper will not work. And then we'll go ahead and put double-sided tape, and we'll do the same thing to the back panel that we did to the front panel. Okay, so zippers on both of those. Now one thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I can see those marks that we made. And so that's going to be where our spine's going to insert later, and that's where our sewing needs to start and stop when we sew this up. And then we want to kind of check and make sure that we have the panels or the zippers in correctly so that it would actually open and close the direction we want and that the D-ring is on the right side. Okay, so now we're going to take double-sided tape. I'm only going to put it from the marks that we made on the front all the way around on the inside of this thing, but only from that mark all the way around to the other mark. And this stuff's a little bit more difficult to get around corners, but I've found if you just kind of wad it up and mash it around, it's the sticky part of this double-sided tape, not the paper, that matters. So you can just kind of wad it up there in the corners. That's going to be enough to hold our interior into there, and then we'll do that to both of these. All right, so now we're ready to install our interior panel. So we'll just pull the paper off. Be sure you get the right panel on the right side, you know, to where you got them where you want them. And we'll go ahead and we're going to line those up. With having that zipper turned up like that, you can see the edge of your main body panel, your outside panel. So just line your interior pieces up to there. Even if you have a little bit of overhang all the way around the circumference, that's good. That ensures that your machine will not miss the interior when you go to sew this up, because you're going to be sewing blind on the interior because that'll be underneath, and so you won't be able to see that. All right guys, so I kind of messed up and forgot to hit record when I was sewing those two front and back panels. So I've made up this mock piece here where I'm going to show you, and also too, you can kind of see a little easier in this shot here of those two marks that we made. This is just a dummy piece with a zipper on there. You can see also how the zipper is up. It's pointing upward. So it's rolled around the back side and then it's pointed up. It makes it very easy to sew this. It's not going to be in your way whatsoever when you sew this. So you're going to sew it normally. But I wanted to show you where those marks are. So there's one here and one here. They're about 5.5 inches apart, and that you do not want to sew past those lines because that's where we're going to insert the spine to tie the front and back panels together. So you'll see that here later in the video. But for right now, I just want to kind of show you a little bit of the sewing or sewing this piece because since I missed that shot. But we're just going to start right at that mark, and I'm sewing this on a Cobra Class 26. And so you can definitely make you a sewing line around there if you want a mark of some kind to follow. I found the guide doesn't work real well. You might be able to use a guide, but I'm used to not using one, so we're not going to use one. I'm just going to eyeball it, and that's the way I did it when I sewed the other one. Also, the phone pocket wallet will not get in the way. Well, if you're on this machine, it won't. If you're on a different machine with a bigger presser foot, I can't guarantee that if you make the same block that I did. But for this machine, this little narrow presser foot, it went right around that phone pocket without any kind of issues, didn't get hung up or anything like that. But we're just going to sew around this. Now we're going to stop right there at that other mark. And so obviously when you do yours, you'll have your interior already installed, just like we've already done here in the video. But I just wanted to show you kind of a close-up and how that does sew around, because I know a lot of y'all probably thinking, man, that zipper is going to get in the way. It doesn't get in the way at all. It's pointed upward. Now when we go back over there later and we roll that over, you can see how much distance that'll give you, plus the other side. That's going to give you just the right amount of opening, and that zipper will just fold right down like that, and it's ready to be zipped up, and it'll give you the right amount of gap in between the front and the back panel. But anyway, that's how you sew that. Remember, do not sew right here on that where we put those marks. That's going to be very important because we've got to get something in there here in just a minute. But again, too, when you sew this, you will have your interiors already inside here, just like we just prepared in the last part of the video. All right, so now we've gotten all that sewn. Like I said, sorry I missed that part on the video, just didn't hit the button. But now that we've got it sewn, our interiors are sewn to our front and back panel. Now we'll take a sharp razor blade. If you've got a nice sharp edger that's small enough, you can certainly do that. We've skived around the outside of all of the interior pieces, so they should come out just right. Or easy enough. And what I'm going to do is, I find it easier just use a nice sharp brand new razor blade, and I'm just going to very gently trim any excess past my stitch line of that goat skin that makes the interiors. That's just going to allow that zipper material to bend around nice and even and not have any kind of lumps or something trying to push it out. And so now we can roll that zipper back around towards the inside, and zipper's installed. You can also see that our little coin purse or coin pocket there, not gluing all the interior straight to the back of the panel, allows you to have another extra pocket. And there you can see that opening there that we're talking about for the spine. And so these are ready to go. All right, now I've just gotten me a little firm piece of 3/4 ounce leather. You probably could use 5 ounce, but it'd be a little heavy. I would stay with something like a firm 3/4 veg or something. And I'm gonna cut it 5.5 inches long by about 1.5 inches to 1.75 inches, depending on what you're doing. But the pattern pack has an actual size that I used on here, but I think it's about 1.75 inches. and that way it gives us the right amount. You can have 3/8 worth of overlap there, where you're going to stick that 3/8 of an inch in to the underneath the front panel there for your stitch relief. And so we'll go ahead and cut this out. Now here I'm just measuring what my stitch relief is going to be, what part is actually going to go into the front and back panel there to sew it down. I'm going to set some wing dividers there at that width, and we're just going to make some light marks. Don't make these marks, don't scratch it, because you may could see them whenever the phone case is closed. So I just want some light marks so that you can line that up. And then we're going to go ahead and skive the left and right side of that. You want a nice feathered edge, but still have some meat on there that the stitches will hold well. Now I went ahead and edged and slicked the little ends of this. If you don't want to fool with that, you don't have to, but you can edge and slick that and get that ready. And then we'll put some tape along the outer edge, one on the left, one on the right, and we'll be ready to install this into the wallet. All right, now before we install that, what I want to do is go ahead and put our zipper on our zipper tape here. And what you want to do is really get those two pieces lined up vertically and sideways there so that they're perfectly across from each other, and then start your zipper. This can be kind of a little bit of a trick, but you just kind of get started. I like to start there on the bottom and then have it zip around. And so you're just going to get them started. Make sure that your panels are lined up, and then go ahead and track that zipper. If you're using the really nice zipper from Aaron at Maker's Leather Supply, this will be a lot easier. That zipper is really, really nice. And then we'll go ahead and go all the way around, and I just want to go enough to where now it's together, and then check it and make sure that everything's lined up. If it looks crooked, take your pull all the way off, realign it, start your pull again, and you'll get everything kind of lined up. Now I'm going to take a scratch awl, a big spike awl, and we're going to break any of that tape loose all the way up to those stitch lines, like where we started and stopped stitching there towards that spine. I want to be sure that that's nice and opened up, because we're going to insert that little veg tan spine that we just prepared. We're going to go and insert that and line it up on our line that we made with our wing dividers, and then get it stuck in there with tape really good so that it's where it needs to be. Now we'll start on the other side and we'll just wrap it around and insert it into that side the same way. If your leather is a little extra firm and you're having trouble and maybe the tape's breaking loose, you can take a little wool dauber and put a little bit of moisture on top of that spine if it's veg, and that'll help that to bend around. I didn't have much trouble with this one, but you want to kind of get that in there and get it stuck where it needs to go. All right, so our outer spine is installed. You want to make sure that your zipper pull obviously is up out from behind that so that you can get to it, and your zipper should be on the inside. So be sure when you put it in that when you open it up, you can see the ends of your zipper tape, and you want to make sure your zipper's tracking, everything looks good, and then we'll go ahead and work on making the interior spine. Now for the interior spine cover, basically what this is going to do is just cover up those ugly ends of your zipper tape and the interior part of that outer spine. I'm going to cut it the same 5.5 inch length, but then the width of it, I would go ahead and bump it out to like 2 inches, make it extra wide. You're going to trim it off anyway. You want to be sure that you catch this with the stitches when you go to sew this on the machine, and so we're going to tape that in place, but go ahead and make it a little extra wide, and then you can trim it off once we sew it. All right, so before we put that interior spine cover on, I want to go ahead and put a stop on the bottom end of this zipper here, just to ensure that over time of use and everything, that those zipper tape doesn't come undone there at the end of the zipper. I'm using the stop that has the little teeth. I think it's a bottom stop that you crimp down. You could certainly put it on before you put the spine in, but I found it's just easier just to do it right here with a pair of needle nose. Just stick that in there. You're just trying to keep the zipper tape from coming undone. Just a good little safety feature. You shouldn't need any on the top because the slide will not go past that little spine piece. So the ends, there's no way it's going to get down in there and come untracked. All right, so now I'm just going to take our double-sided tape and just run a little strip right along the edge there where our spine is, and we'll just put one on each side, and then we'll simply just stick that spine cover piece in there, and then we'll be ready to sew that up on the machine. So now we're going to sew this in. You're just going to start at the last hole where you stopped when you came around there, and then you'll just cruise right up to where you started and just end it right there and backstitch, and it'll look really seamless. As you can see there, this is a good example there of how that presser foot of ours on the class 26, and I think it's the only presser foot system with that machine, on how easily it passes right by that formed phone pocket without any trouble. Now the two panels are attached, and as you can see on the inside, now you don't see any of the zipper tape or any of that. I'm just going to take a spike awl and break any tape loose right there, and then we'll take a sharp razor blade or an edger, whatever you're more comfortable with, and we'll just very carefully trim any excess right up against the stitches, and that's going to make a nice clean interior for this wallet. Now I went ahead, and since that spine is just raw leather, I went ahead and put a little bit of Duff's leather conditioning oil on there just to give that leather a little bit of color, and then gave the whole phone case just a little wipe down with oil. You can do that when you use tan coat. You can go ahead and add a little bit of oil over the top and it will penetrate. Now I'm going to go to this low-tech bench skiving tool here that I got this year. You may have seen it in our Monday video. I really like this thing. It's just handy when you got a little project you're working on and you need to edge a strip. But that's a piece of 5/6 ounce Herman oak veg, nice and firm. That's going to be our lanyard strap. And we went ahead and cut this out of 5/6 at 3/4 of an inch width. You could definitely change that if you want. And then I went ahead and just ran it through our case sink there just to get it wet. And then I'm going to slick it. When I slick long straps like this, I find it's a lot easier just to grab my slicking rag. I don't use any soap or anything, and just pull that through your hand. And if you do that a few times, it's going to go ahead and slick those edges on both sides really easily for you. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my strap and just square up the end, and then we'll cut it to length. I did this one 49 inches long. I feel like that's a good length for a lanyard for this particular project, but you can certainly change that size. And if you're doing it as a crossbody, obviously your strap is going to be different, but 49 inches worked good for us. And we'll go ahead and cut that to length, and then I'm going to use a strap cutter, a strap end punch, and we'll go ahead and point one end of this. The other end we'll leave square, and we'll just point this in right quick. Now on this one, I just did some simple knife work, just swivel knife cuts on here. You could definitely basket stamp this. I did another one when I was figuring out how to make this. I did do one of the straps, just a real tiny basket stamp, and it looked really nice. You do a lot of different things. It's only 3/4 of an inch width, so I like a little decoration on it, but I didn't want to actually tool it, but you certainly could. All right, so we're here at the oiling bench, and I'm just giving it just a little drink of oil here just to give it some color, and then we'll move it over to the finishing bench and go ahead and wipe it down with tan coat and then antique that. Now, since this strap is not going to be lined and it will be exposed, I went ahead and put some blue painter's tape on this before we antique it, just to keep the backside clean. That's a good little trick if you're antiquing something that's not going to be lined. Just go ahead and tape it with painter's tape to keep it clean. So we got the antiquing done, the strap's just about done, so we'll pull that blue painter's tape off there, and you can see how clean the back side of that strap is still. And so now we'll mount the snap on here so that we can snap it onto that D-ring. And all I'm doing here, it's very simple, just gonna put the snap on, roll it over the barrel of the snap there, just maybe, I don't know, maybe an inch, maybe not that much, just kind of, I just eyeballed it. And then we'll bring the pointed tip right on top of that, and then we'll punch a hole, and we're just going to set a very simple double cap speed rivet. So there's a pretty simple little lanyard there, and it'll just clip right to that D-ring on the phone wallet. All right, guys, so that's making our lanyard phone wallet. I really enjoyed making this project. As you can see in the video, there are quite a few steps. It might be just a little bit of a step-up project if you're just starting out. Give this a shot. It's going to challenge you. It's the zippers. A lot of people are really scared of zippers, but like I said, I was really surprised how well and how easy this zipper assembly went in and how it all worked. And then the forming and everything, that's kind of something that you're going to need to get used to, and doing that and trying to stretch and form leather over a particular item. So this is kind of fun because the phone's pretty easy. It's just a square or a rectangle. It's pretty simple to kind of try your hand at forming and doing that. If you want to give one of these a shot, we do offer a pattern pack for this on our website at dgsaddlery.com. We always offer a pattern pack for our project videos. As usual, this is a large format print. It's a pretty big sheets of paper. So if you are in the United States, we recommend that you buy the printed version. There's links down in the description to both the printed as well as the digital that we offer. But if you do buy the digital one, then you just need to know that you will have to take that to a print shop and have somebody print that out for you on a large format printer. So if you're in the US, get the printed version. We'll mail that right out to you. If you're not inside the United States, then the digital one will have to work. But we really appreciate you guys watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you'll give one of these a try. Try to make one of these. You can kind of change it up however to fit your needs. You could even make this a crossbody if you wanted to. You could add an extra D-ring right in here somewhere, or maybe down here, and to where you can carry it more like this instead of just a lanyard style. There's a lot of things you can do with this little project, so had a lot of fun with it. I appreciate you guys watching. Be sure to go to dgsaddlery.com and sign up for the Leathercraft newsletter, and we'll see you guys in the next project video.